Now
I
the
was
recording's in progress.
halfway through doing a David Cano bio that I had to finish basically, but
Mm.
there wasn't a whole lot. Uh,
No, I just I guess I'm coming. We've been on a few minutes. So I guess my Zoom's okay today, but I should have my recording setup finally changed by the end of this week, hopefully. So
cool.
You had to write a bio. Oh yeah, you're doing character bios. Yeah, for
Yep.
Kano. Yeah, Kano. I actually see a little bit more of Kano on this rewatch than I remember. It seems like he was very much in the background. He is, but he does pop up and have a few things to say every so
that's
often.
kind of his spot in the show for
It's
the most
just
part.
it's just a matter of that I haven't gotten to. I can't do a bio like the season finale because I'm gonna have too much shit to talk about basically already, and
So
also
did you cover everybody?
not Dr. Matthias. So
Oh,
he's just gonna have to.
not to say Dr. Matthias doesn't matter, but that's probably fine.
He's the only acceptable omission besides a couple of the extras who are recurring extras.
When he died, we thought he was dead for good, and then he wasn't. So
I think I
Hmm.
think he only appears in the beginning of season 2, and then he kind of disappears and is replaced by another character.
Yeah, that I don't know. From what I remember reading, he's done after season one, like a couple of other people are.
you're
Um,
done. Get out of here.
Well,
done.
not as finally as the other ones. The others are just gone with no explanation, right? And it's like, okay.
One
That's
of
about
your
what I'd
lead
expect.
actors is no longer here with
But
no.
Anton Phillips, I think, does show up again for a few episodes, just not very many.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Nice
Well,
guy. One of the few people I've actually met from the
huh.
show.
Yeah, most most people who are on this show seem like they'd be pretty cool to hang out with the notable exception of the two leads who wouldn't want to talk to anybody, who wouldn't want to talk to anybody anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's my experience.
I
And
don't
then
know.
the one convention I went to, I don't know if I ever got into this, but there was a convention in September of 1999 for
Oh yeah.
called Breakaway Con. It was in LA, and I went to it. About the only time I ever went out of town for a multi-day convention for any reason. And so I went to that. And most of the first season cast was going to be there, but then Martin Landau bowed out because he said he had to do some ADR for Sleepy Hollow, which he's only in for like 2 minutes at the beginning of the movie, and most of that's just grunting and running and panting. So I kind of thought that was a lame excuse. Barbara
Yeah.
Bain was there, but she only met with her fan club, and then she did a performance with Barry Morris of uh of the play Love Letters. They sat down and read this play where it's
Hmm.
just two people,
I
and
thought you were going to
that
say
was very
the
nice. So I got to see Martin Landau perform with Barry Morris, or I'm sorry, Barbara Bain perform with Barry Morris that evening, and that was kind of cool. It was for charity or something, but other than that, she was nowhere to be seen at the convention. So and then Jerry Anderson himself didn't fly in because no one would pay for a first class ticket for Jerry Anderson because he couldn't fly coach because of his I don't know, his age, his he couldn't sit in a.
Oh,
mm,
I thought
But
that
at
was
the
going to
very
take a
end,
different turn.
yeah, but at the very end though, Fred Freiberger showed up, and
Hmm.
he had
Oh, I think I've heard of it about
yeah.
this,
he's our series killer.
but I think I've heard about this specific instance of his reception at that specific con where he sort of got booed off the stage or something
He
like
didn't really
that.
get booed off the stage, but it was, pretty, you know, lukewarm reception. He had a few things to say. He was defending his decisions for what he had to say about the show.
I hope he
I
screamed them.
don't. I got a picture of him with my old 35 millimeter camera. I can show you guys those photos at some point.
Nice. Should put them up on the. We should just get an Instagram just to put those up and then never use it again.
Make it a background. You could make that your background.
Yeah.
I can share them on Discord. Mark, are you on the Mission Log Discord? I thought you
I'm on
were.
there, but I just don't show up a whole lot because I'm always just all over. I haven't really learned how to use Discord that all that much, so
It's
I
not
don't really
particularly difficult to use, I don't think. It's just multiple
it's
chat
not
rooms.
it's one of those things where like you reach a certain age and a new thing happens and you're like, well,
Yeah, you
I
can't share
forget that this
anything.
exists because I didn't necessarily learn how to use it all that much. So I just don't. It's Twitter's like that for me. Like I never really started using Twitter all that much because it's just I don't entirely understand it. So I just never bothered. I just never think to myself,
Jitter.
I want to go on Twitter. Jitter. Yeah.
Jitter. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like jitter.
Jitter. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it looks like you just
Um,
and you joined a yeah. You're like 3 messages on.
oh
This is
God.
I'm gonna friend this guy right
Sorry.
now. See what happens.
Oh. I
I doubt you're on Discord now, though. I don't know. I guess
No,
we
I
should do
don't
an
see
not.
episode then.
I-
Should we
I really want.
oh,
I mean, I need to go and like chat on some of the mission log ones because they're like watching Voyager episodes that I have watched within the last few months. So like I would remember them, and I just don't think about it. Anyway,
except for the ones that aren't
uh,
memorable.
when Matt specifically DMs me and says I am doing Twilight Zone chat, then I'm like, okay, then I can go, then I show up. So yeah. I'm not super good at the out of what is it? Object permanence. I have real object permanence problems. Like real serious ones.
Look at look at the remote control.
Oh, it's
Speak-
there. Oh, where'd it go? It's gone. It's gone.
It doesn't exist
No.
anymore.
Does
it
no
didn't-
longer exist.
There's no such thing as the remote control anymore.
Speaking
Anyway,
speaking of socials, is Podcastio going to be on the Blue Sky now that it's open to the public and everyone can join?
it should be. I need to. I mean, I need to.
You're the social
I
you're
need
the
to
social
make-
media manager, right, Mark?
I am fucking horrible at it. I think that this podcast, the Facebook for this podcast, is like 10 episodes behind at this point. And I'm like, sometimes I'll remember to do like 3 in 1 week and then I'll forget 3 weeks. So it's just
Yeah,
like,
I think Facebook has reached dumpster fire mode now. I mean, it's basically like for messaging people at this
I
point.
got rid of Facebook years ago. I couldn't take it. It was already dumpster fire to me.
Because we have, Mark and Luke and I have our joint thread, but that's not like,
Yeah.
that's messaging. That's not, and it just happens to be on Facebook. It could be somewhere else.
yeah.
Like in
And I
Japan,
mean,
everyone uses Line now, so Line is currently the thing. Like wouldn't
you
find it
added,
being- Huh?
sorry, you added me online and then it was like, I don't think that we ever really did much chatting on it. And then like sometimes I just get messages that are like, hey, would you like to invest in our new NFTs or something like that from something random
Ooh,
place?
please. No,
Yeah, of
and-
course. I always invest in them when they when they show up, of course.
No, and in Japan, that's basically like the main social media now. They have like characters that are popular and shit, like the line animals or whatever.
It's not like I object to the idea of a different social media than Facebook. I mean, I hate Facebook. I think it's terrible, but I know how to use it. So I just
Hmm.
default to, I know how to use Facebook and Reddit. So I just sort of default to them.
Right.
It's like, that's just about all there is to it,
The
really.
only thing that sucks with, well, not the only thing, but the real sucky thing is about a year ago, Line made it where you can only have it on like one device now, which kind of sucks.
Hmm.
Only
So-
one device.
So it's only on my phone. It's not on my iPad.
Oh, is that your decision? It's not enforced by them, right?
No, that's enforced by them.
That's
app.
weird.
It is weird.
Why would they not want you to be able to use it
Well,
when you possibly can?
But by that time, Line had already become like the main social media in Japan, so everyone just kept using it anyway on their one device.
I mean, TikTok is weird about that too, I think. Like,
I have
TikTok
not-
is sort of like you have to use your phone number for it. Like if you want a TikTok
Hmm.
account, you must give them a phone number.
Yeah, I hate that.
I've done nothing whatsoever with TikTok. I'm very old man about TikTok.
I mean, I
Yeah,
am
me
ashamed
too.
to admit that I joined TikTok for a couple of friends of mine who posted thirst traps.
I think
So
Trump
I am
knows
weak.
more about TikTok than I do.
Sometimes I like to join these things
Maybe.
just to establish my, my username on there. So it's like, okay, I've secured my username. Goodbye, and I log in.
Well, there's apparently this thing where anybody who joined Twitter early enough that they got like the Twitter usernames that are just one letter or one number, they've been able to sell those accounts for like millions of dollars because they're worth so much. Like,
There
yeah,
was some-
follow me at T on Twitter. It's like that's worth a zillion dollars.
It's kind of like domain names. So for the longest time, you couldn't get a X.com, for instance, but somehow Elon did because,
'Cause he has
but
all the
one or
money.
two letter names were not available at all.
Well, the capital.
Do you guys were you guys on the early internet? Do you remember hell.com?
Kind of. Isn't that just a
Oh.
picture of flames, basically?
No, it was this really cool art installation where it would be like you'd sort of click down a bunch of different pathways and it would just be really obscure. But then eventually, you would usually eventually find your way to some art show, some ad for an art show that was happening in Brooklyn. Like it was some New York based artists. But eventually, there was a bunch of infighting and someone downloaded the whole site and people got mad about that. But then the guy who owned it sold it to some church for $1 million.
$1
cashed
million.
out.
Okay.
And that's why the internet sucks now, is basically that's the crux of it.
Mm.
Is the coolest website getting sold to a church for $1 million so the guy could cash out and not do art anymore.
Good for him.
I knew a guy who owned Christian.com. I think he finally sold it to some church.
I mean, I can't hate. I don't know. I can't hate on that. If I had gotten a domain for whatever reason, I could.
Why don't you buy
sell it.
sexyjesus.com now if it's not taken?
Jesus.
Because it's probably taken.
Yeah. As I was saying it, it kind of occurred to me.
I want buddychrist.com. That would be awesome.
That's definitely taken.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet that website is easier to get. You probably find a promotional site for that movie more easily than you'd find a disc of the movie.
Do I have that on disc? Maybe. I don't know.
Well, keep it, because apparently it's just not a thing because of Weinstein,
can-
our perpetual villain Weinstein.
Probably a Hoyie idiot too. So
Yeah, of course. But you're the disc guy.
Yeah. I guess let's do the pause.
Yeah.
And you do the thing.
All right.
And we do a show.
Oh no.
Okay. Welcome to Podcast 1999, the podcast about Space 1999. I'm your host, Mark Malik. This is your other host.
This is what I was gonna
Matthew
say this
Comingis.
is. That's right.
This is.
This is.
And this is our guest, Brian Clayton. Hello,
Hi.
Brian.
That
So-
is.
I am back.
This and that.
So, who thought there would be a dragon in this episode?
It isn't a
I
title.
did.
Okay, I did
depends
not.
on-
Also, like in my podcasting world, it's like Dragon Week because Mark, you and I are doing D War, Dragon Wars in like 2 days. I'll do Hercules, which has a dragon in it. So there's just like everything this week has a. Well, this doesn't have a dragon in it.
This does not have a
It's in the
dragon in it,
title.
and it's exactly what I thought. But it turns out that what it actually has in it is the flying spaghetti monster. So the flying spaghetti monster comes to bless us with his noodly appendages and eat a bunch of people and spit out corpses.
It is real, so you can't use that
Yes.
as your.
That's what
atheist,
happens.
Only
Yeah.
he's not flying and he's
Experiment.
not really made of spaghetti.
No, well, he's in space, so kind of flying. I don't know if you're are you flying if you're inside a spaceship?
See,
Well, when he's in the
glimmers,
flashy light mode, he's like
Yeah.
incorporeal, then he's flying.
yeah,
It
You're
looks
right.
like the lights of Zatar,
Yeah.
flying around.
It looks like the ITC logo.
that's a cool effect.
Oh, yeah.
Here, tangent number one before you even do your trivia. Favorite studio fanfare. Do you have Well, you got Columbia's, you got Warner Brothers.
BND.
Yeah, okay. That's
I like
the-
ITC.
Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun.
that's a terrifying one. Okay.
Yes, of course, the scariest one.
Brian,
Are you referring to
Max?
ITC's fanfare? Dun, 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 dun,
Dun, dun,
dun.
dun, dun. That's super good.
I'm gonna go major. I'm gonna choose the Warner Brothers variant before Ocean's 11, 13. Excuse me, 13 has a really cool one.
I mean,
Maybe 8 has a better one. I don't know.
I am a huge fan of the '70s United Artists, like to the point where.
You mean the 82 one, the one that's really slow and creepy?
Yes,
I think that's
thought-
82.
I thought that started in like
Obviously,
'76.
Obviously,
Maybe
I've
you know
recently
better.
been down this rabbit hole, but
Mm.
the date I saw,
I think
the
you can
clip
hear
I
us
watched
talk
was
about it
82.
on a podcast
Yeah, we did a whole thing about
somewhere.
that.
Somewhere.
It's not the first time I've been down that rabbit hole. Okay, tangent closed. Let's do some trivia.
Okay, trivia. This is the penultimate episode produced for the season, 23rd in production order. We have Charles Crichton back to direct. Last one for him this season, but he'll be back for 6 in season 2. Christopher Penfold is back for his final writing contribution to the series. As I mentioned in a previous trivia somewhere, the script was written to feature Nick Tate as Alan Carter. But Landau vetoed it, apparently saying to him, "I'm the star kid. When you have your own series, you can have control." What was originally Carter's role was actually given to the new character, Tony Cellini, following a rewrite that Landau assisted Jerry Anderson and Charles Crichton with. Tate was devastated but sympathized with Landau's point of view. I found no info on whether Landau personally wrote in the 2 times that Carter was knocked unconscious. The scene with Koenig apologizing to Dr. Russell was inserted by ITC New York and was generally considered schmaltzy by everyone else. The James Bond film series was in the middle of a 3-year hiatus, which is laughable by today's standards. Anyway, so that's why M's office was used as the set for the office of Commissioner Dixon. Our primary guest star this week is Gianni Garco as Tony Cellini. Was Donnie Darko named after him? I couldn't find anything to confirm or deny.
Time loop.
Yes. I mean, think about it. Doomed hero.
No time
Doesn't
loop
speak
in this
English
one.
very well. Born in 1935 in Zara, Dalmatia, Italy, which is now part of Croatia. He has a long acting career in TV and film that leads up to 2017 with his appearance in 52 episodes of Maggie and Bianca, Fashion Friends. But of course, you can also see him in Sartana Kills Them All. I am Sartana, your angel of death. If you meet Sartana, pray for your death. And like the fuse, Sartana is coming.
So we don't want to meet Sartana? Is that what you're saying?
It sounds like you don't want to meet Sartana. As Commissioner Dixon, we have Douglas Wilmer. He was born in 1920 in London. He was an actor with over 100 credits, but is most well known for playing Nayland Smith in the unfortunate series Fu Manchu. In his spare time, he painted and also served in the Royal Artillery in World War II. Spare time. Of course, you can also see him in Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Passport to Treason, and Octopussy. He passed away in 2016 at the age of 96. As the ill-fated Dr. Monique Boucher, we have Barbara Kellerman. Born in 1949 in Manchester, she eventually appeared in the 80s and 90s British TV miniseries based on some of the Narnia books, but also appeared in Satan's Slave, Victorian Scandals, and Comedy Premiere. She seemingly retired in the 2000s, but is still with us. As the ill-fated Professor Juliet Mackey, we have Susan Jameson. She was born in 1941 in Barnt Green, Worcestershire, UK. Made one appearance in UFO, not to mention Grandpa in My Pocket, a very British sex scandal, and Always and Everyone. As the ill-fated Darwin King, we have Michael Sheard. He was born in 1938 in Scotland and has a load of TV credits, including TV and film credits, including playing Admiral Ozzel in The Empire Strikes Back, and also played Adolf Hitler in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, The Dirty Dozen Next Mission, The Tomorrow People, Rogue Mail, and Secret History. He passed away in 2005, so he can no longer play Adolf Hitler.
Was it in
Those were all Adolf Hitler?
Those were all Hitler.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of Hitler credits.
For today's one last cast spotlight for season 1, Clifton Jones is David Cano. This bio should have gone before Guardian of Fury, but I had stuff going on when I did that. He was born in 1937 in St. Andrew, Jamaica, moved to the UK in 1956 to study acting at the Italia Conti School. Wonder if that has any connection with the Italians we keep seeing on the series. I don't know. His first regular role was in British soap opera Emergency Ward 10, but his most well-known role actually is this role in Space 1999. But you can also catch him in Now Look Here, Doctor in Charge, Menace, Watership Down, and in 2 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. One of them as a Klingon. He retired in the mid-90s, but is still with us in 2024. And that's the trivia.
Go back to where you listed all the crew members of the Ultra probe, and then just tell me the adjective where you said they were gonna die.
Ill-fated.
Was that for all of them?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I heard it
sometimes
twice. But I was hoping you were
you heard it 3
like,
times.
I was hoping that you had different words and then you would say them all together, but that's not what happened. Oh
Well,
well.
sometimes the best joke that I can do is just to say the same thing 3 times.
uh, hey
I
Brian,
could
you
have
got
just
an
called them all
addendum?
corpse.
You want an addendum on anything?
Oh no, I mean, I
Well,
got a kick out of, the fact that Admiral Ozzel, keeps getting killed in space.
I mean, there, the only thing I specifically left out was that after they were done filming this, they left the creature outside, and it then rotted in the sun. But I didn't think that was quite
It probably got more
interesting enough.
terrifying looking as that happened.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it wasn't the most terrifying thing about it was just the screaming. I couldn't find what the credit was for who was doing the screaming, which would be some very good trivia if I could find that.
How
I just want
about
to
how
point
about
out that in the zeitgeist of the time, the creature was so famous, he got his own lunchbox.
all right.
Wow. Imagine going to school with that and just be like,
I
Well, a
went to
lot of
school
people
with this.
did.
This is not the very one. My wife gave me this one, but the original got destroyed ages ago, I'm sure. But she found one
wow,
on eBay.
that is
Should I
amazing.
just assume the other side's Koenig and an eagle? Oh, no,
It's Koenig with a moon
rover.
buggy and an
Yeah,
eagle,
yeah, okay.
and no thermos. The thermos is the first thing to go, of course. So the thermos never survives
Uh-huh.
unless you're.
You put him out in the sun with the octopus monster.
I very much remember what thermoses were like when they were like done, and it just smells like the inside of somebody's mouth. It's like the most
Ugh.
disgusting. Anyway,
Here's a story for
uh,
you. I have a
Any
story for you.
do it.
Dr. Russell is concerned that Moonbase Captain Tony Cellini is battling unseen creatures in the dark of his quarters, but Commander Koenig knows Cellini is solid, even after Cellini tries to fly away with an eagle. 5 years ago, in 1996, Koenig, Cellini, and Victor Bergman were on a mission to explore the newly discovered 10th planet, Autra. Only a coin flip sent Cellini instead of Koenig. The manned probe found a graveyard of spaceships, and once Autra linked to one, a many-tentacled monster killed all of the crew save Cellini. Folks back on Earth reckon Cellini was actually responsible for the deaths through negligence. Dr. Russell agrees, though Koenig says he is solid. Then Moonbase Alpha encounters the ship Graveyard again, weirdly appearing in a faraway galaxy. Cellini finally commandeers his eagle to fly over and take down the many tentacled monster. He fails and dies, but Koenig catches up and realizes that the creature's weakness may be the eye, which takes up a good 60% of its body. So Cellini is dead, Koenig eye stabs, and we're off for another adventure next week, at least one more time. Okay, that was the end of that.
So this is my favorite. I would say this is maybe my favorite 2 minutes of the series, surrounded by my least favorite rest of the episode.
do flashbacks bore you? I know they
I
bore
found
not.
this infuriating. I found this episode infuriating. Like
It's funny. I
it's
saw there was an episode of Space UFO in the previous series the Andersons did, which was largely a flashback, and it gave you a lot of character background for Ed Straker, okay. Ed Bishop's character. And so I thought, well, this would have been cool if this had been about one of the main characters, but it was about the guest stars character. So
Who
exactly.
appears and instantly becomes the most important person on the moon base for the one episode.
MVP,
and
MVP.
everything about him is fed to us by like Koenig and Helena saying nice things about he was the greatest athlete. He was the great. There's nothing
Golden boy.
nothing. It's tell don't
All
show.
rounder.
All of it is tell don't show. Then it's like the argument. It's just did he see the monster or did he I guess kill all those people? Is kind of reduced to this argument that is stretched out as if there was anything more. There's nothing to the argument except did he see the monster or not, but it sort of keeps being reframed as like I don't under and Koenig says some of the most frustrating and non-arguments. The logic where at some point I have all these notes, they're just scattered everywhere, but it's just I don't know. It's at some point he's talking about how he saw the spaceships, and she's like, well, but he's not right about the monster. And then Koenig says that makes him, but he's righter. Which is like, what you talk? I feel like now my brain is becoming broken by how scattered my own thoughts about.
I wrote
the
that down.
scattered
I look
brain.
righter than you.
This is just Koenig being mad that he's possibly not right about something. That the entire episode he's just screaming about.
I
Yeah,
guess we.
well, he's very much on Cellini's side, and yeah, there's this whole bromance thing between those two. I mean, they decided the fate of the command up based on a coin flip. They're that casual, right? They're just
Yeah, but
everything that there's just a a buddy club of two people.
but they have one scene together, I think, and it's the one where Koenig shows up and shoots him. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, bang, shoots him. He has more scenes with Alan Carter, who was
Well, the
denied
flashback
the
makes up for
role.
that. Flashback's supposed to
Yeah.
explain how close they are, and
Yeah. Well, flashback has most of it is either him opposite Helena, which isn't bad. He's not a bad actor. His English is bad, but he's not a bad actor. But it's just the character is so weirdly underbaked, except for what the characters are feeding us exposition about him.
I think
And
he called
Yeah, it's-
Alan Adam once too. Did anyone catch that? He said
I
like
didn't
Adam.
catch
He was
that.
like, Adam, come over here. Look at this. I said, did he call Alan Adam, or is it just the accent?
Alam, come over here. Yeah.
I caught like a few weird grammatical errors in Helena's like voiceover where she says he was on the point of death, which is not. And she says, I began to inquire into the mental state of the patient, which is just weird. It's just a weird sentence. I don't know. It's a mess. I don't know. Maybe this was a thing where Christopher Penfold was just checked out and
He was checked out. He'd been kicked off the show. By this
I guess
point.
he's kicked off the show, right?
Guess he didn't
So
get that
maybe-
final rewrite in. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the rewrite was just super rushed, and that's why it's just this insane mess.
I did find the voiceover to be highly annoying.
Yeah.
And it made me think of the later next gen episode. I forget the name. It's the one where Crusher takes someone else's role, where she takes Geordie's role because she's suddenly interested in like that solar shielding. Joe Brill. So that's the guy, because I thought his name was actually Joe Brill, but it's the Sci-Fi Joe Brill. And Crusher does mildly annoying voiceover in that, but she's a central character, so that episode kind of gets away with it.
Yeah,
it's still the worst thing about that episode, but yeah, here I was just like, yeah, like you said, I guess it's too much telling and not showing. Although, like you said, for the 2 minutes they finally show you something, it's great.
Yeah, it's basically Space Cthulhu or whatever. It's like that. Even if it's kind of ridiculous that basically the only way they could figure out how to make it eat people is to hypnotize them into running into it. It didn't matter. I didn't care. And also,
yeah, that was a little hit and miss too. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't.
Well, yeah, it didn't work on anybody at the end. The monster lost its ability to hypnotize people, and also,
well, it never really hypnotized Cellini because he's an individualist.
Exactly. So, but it did kill him. It did eat him because Koenig showed up. So, Koenig
because he had to be.
kill
Yeah,
him.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Look, kid, when you get your
was...
own show, you get to kill the monster.
Well, it's funny you said that whole thing. There's two things. One is that in the book, in the original, I guess dates back to the original script, his character's name was, what was it? Jim
Bellini.
Calder.
Oh.
No, Jim Calder. That's how he's
Okay.
written in the book. And I'm like, okay. But then you tell me the story about how it was supposed to be Alan Carter. So it went from Alan Carter to Jim Calder to Tony Cellini. And the other thing was, I was thinking, if Landau wanted to check out of the series, this would have been a great point because he could have gone in and got himself killed, and then Tony would have been the hero, and then he would be elected the new, commander of Moonbase Alpha, and no one could understand what he had to say because of his accent. Anyway,
I would have been
Mark and
fine
I-
with that. He's like a Schwarzenegger. He has his presence.
yeah,
that
I like the actor.
I
Mark,
like
you-
him better
you and I
than
had
the
to deal
plant
with that
guy.
once where he had the boss at the mall where
Yeah.
his accent was so thick. Like he'd give me his car and like give me $2,000 and be like, oh, I'm like, what?
He had an accent and a speech impediment at the same time, which is not ideal.
Yeah. So and my job was to go around between all the stores, and half the time I wasn't quite sure I was doing what I was supposed to be doing because I didn't understand the instructions. So that would be Cheladius, a base of Root Base Alpha.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a frustrating misfire and after a string of episodes that I've really liked. I don't remember the last one. I guess the last one I really disliked was Collision Course, which is quite a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's something like Full Circle where it's like really derpy, but it's fun. I mean,
Was that after Collision Course?
yeah,
I'm
that's after
confused.
Collision Course.
Okay, well,
maybe you didn't like that. Okay.
it wasn't good, but it was at least there was stuff happening. Collision Course was a lot like this, where I actively was frustrated with what the characters were doing, and it didn't seem to make sense. But at least I guess at least there were more characters here to chew on. Literally.
Just on another thing. I was not on team. I thought Mars was a good choice for Space Brain. I did like the piece they used in this for the Ultra mission, which was, I wrote it down, Adagio in G minor for strings and organ in G minor by Remo Giazotto. So I don't know. I thought it was familiar, but I thought I played it. But
on a theme by somebody else. There's apparently some controversy on that piece. It was claimed to be it was Albanini or something like that, but it was like based on a theme by him or something.
You
by
could do that. You could do that. I mean, there's like themes in Beethoven symphonies that he stole from someone else.
Right. But the thing about that is I remember there was a album by Renaissance, if you guys are familiar with that 70s prog rock group called Cold as Bean, that came out around that same year, like 74. It was based on that same theme. And I'll shoot you a link to it. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. It's a nice song. And then years later, I learned it was based on this. And then I put it together. It's like, oh, that's the same thing from Space 1999.
But yeah, I thought it had kind of that tone of the string piece in 2001: Space Odyssey, kind of that space loneliness feel that fit nicely with the Ultra mission going out there. So, which I assume they were going for that, connection as well when they made it. But
yeah, I had that sort of discovery going to Jupiter vibe. It's like we're on this long, lonely trek. But it was in fact, in the book, they called it a Star Trek at one point. That didn't used to be.
Are y'all on some sort of a Star Trek?
I mean, I feel like I would want to move to Planet Ultra just on principle. I live in Ultra. Like, screw Earth. I live in Ultra.
Pretty good name.
Yeah.
No, it did. And that's the problem. This is the thing about Ultra. It's like the biggest red herring in the story is like they're going to go visit the planet. That was the original mission. We found a new planet. Let's check it out. We get there, and so all this other crazy stuff happens. We never learn about Ultra, the fact that it's a Earth-like planet that's in the far distant cold area of space beyond Pluto, which couldn't possibly support life, could support life. And yet we don't learn a single thing about the planet other than it's just there.
Yeah, they glaze over that basically there's so much glaze. They're trying to fit so much in this, and they glaze over so much. It's extremely frustrating. Right? Like, sure, it's super impressive that the guy managed to slingshot himself back to Earth after the creature ate everyone, but
that was pretty cool.
It just is like I don't feel like do we even see Ultra? I feel like maybe
you get one shot. It's kind of black and red. It doesn't really look very it was kind of foreboding, actually, but we never learned anything else about it other than Victor discovered it, which means he's world famous, because when you discover planets, you tend to become world famous. At least
that's true.
He is the
before we discovered Planet every
week, so that seems reasonable. He'd be famous.
But also, I mean, Victor and Koenig in the flashbacks come across as basically the exact same characters that they are now. So I would have liked them to be a different somehow. But the worst thing about the flashback entirely is that they go see this commander who they basically sort of have this non-argument with, and that scene just amounts to nothing. He fires all of them, and then the voiceover says, but they all ended up on Alpha. Like, they were what's the point of me seeing a whole scene of them getting fired if they're just gonna be just sort of hand waved back
Yeah, I
to
got the impression
service
that
to
was
do
the last
nothing.
time. What was it, 96? That was the last time Koenig was on Alpha,
Like,
right? And
so
then until in Breakaway, where he was returned as the commander to replace
yeah.
Gorski. But then somehow in between somewhere, he requested Tony Cellini be assigned to Alpha. It's like, when did he have time to do
Yeah.
that as commander? He got there, and almost the next day, the moon was gone. So he didn't have any time
And
to
she
request any personnel changes.
and she also goes out of her way to say that they forgot about that whole thing happening until now, which I don't think that Cellini forgot about that happening.
What I thought
I've
was awesome is they're wearing like future jackets in the past.
yeah.
Well, that's to
Because
give you some continuity. Like, see, the jackets were around. We were wearing them years
Mhm.
ago, back when we kept the thermostat lower on Moonbase Alpha because we're
Yeah.
trying to conserve energy, I guess. I don't know. I like the orange ones kind of too. Those are, you didn't like the orange ones as much, Matt, I think. I like the blue one and the orange one. They're both.
oh
I
yeah,
don't,
I thought Victor was rocking that blue one. It's too bad that's the only time you get to see him in it.
other than Death So Dominion. Yeah, that's about the only time we see those jackets.
Yeah. But yeah, that is extremely I guess they just had access to M's office, or like, let's just have a scene in M's office.
That dawned on me just when I was rewatching it because you know what the tell is the giveaway. It's the red quilted leather door. As soon as I saw that, I said, that's M's office, and I checked the rest of the set and said, that's the same set.
Yeah.
Good set.
And it wasn't
Yeah.
really like a 3 year break, I don't think, between Bond movies. They were still coming out about every 2 years back
The
then.
70s are bopping, weren't they?
That's what
Let's see,
the
Live and Let
IMDb
Die,
said following
71.
Well,
Two years.
production
IMDb
wise,
said following the disappointing reception of Man with the Golden Gun, there was a 3 year
Really?
hiatus.
Okay.
So,
Hmm.
and it
Didn't
also
know
it
that.
might have been like a 3 year production hiatus, and it might be that one of that they came out less than 3 years apart
But
because of
well, that was during the
production
time when Bond
post-production.
films were basically coming out every odd year. And the only exception to that, I think, was Man with the Golden Gun. But it came out in the very last week of 74. It was like Christmas release, like post-Christmas release.
what's
So I tend to
truly
think of it, I tend to think of Golden Gun as like a 75 movie. So there was 73, 75, and then 77 was The Spy Who Loved Me. So really, it wasn't that long. Maybe production-wise, but release-wise, it was more like
You know what? The weird thing is I'm looking at Man with the Golden Gun that says 74, so this must have come out while they were it must have come out right when they were
it's not
producing
like they
stuff.
really
So maybe
redressed the
the
set much. I mean, they could just pop in for a day and shoot this,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, it's
What I
pretty,
think is
they
truly
changed the
amazing
paintings.
is that Roger Moore aged like 20 years in that 3 year period.
Yeah, it's real. He looks real weird in the later James Bond movies. I feel like he's not even that old. It's just sort of a thing where he's aged. He's just one of those people who didn't age
Yeah, I
well.
guess between his debut and so that would have been what, 73, I
One?
guess, in Live and Let Die, and then 77. He did kind of
77,
look
Spy Who Loved Me. So according
4 years.
to
He
his
aged 10
IMDb,
years in 4 years.
yeah, according to the IMDb, this is a 3 year gap, but the 3 year gap is like the entirety of Space 1999 happened between it within the 3 year gap, and James,
Yeah, kind
this
of.
is the
Yeah.
beginning of it, so it's almost no point in them mentioning how long the gap is.
Oh,
I guess
fun
they were
fact.
just
Another connection is that if you go to Moonraker and you look at
Mhm.
some of the props and things on Moonraker, like particularly for those looking at the video, these lamps that you see all over Moonbase Alpha, they're on
Mhm.
Draco's or Drax's space station in Moonraker. You see a lot of like Space 1999 gear turn up in some of the Bond movies after
And that
this.
jungle control
Makes a lot of
room, it must
sense.
have some of that stuff too. Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, the timing works. They found that they'd probably all went into storage at Pinewood and just like, yeah, look at all the space stuff. It's time to make the space bond.
Those lamps were like Italian, another Italy connection. I think some Italian designer produced those lamps. They're kind of hard to come by these days. They're pretty pricey because they're vintage 70s.
Yeah, I wish I'd bought more stuff like that like 20
I
years
still have a
ago when it
lamp
was
like that.
easier. Yeah, I have a couple of mid-century-ish things that I like need to fix up, and like I have This is sort of in pieces, but I have this ice bucket that's basically a dome, but it needs to be like kind of rebuilt because
Oh,
it fell apart really easily.
Your fortress of solitude. 'Cause
Well,
it's
I didn't
icy and it's
realize
got a
that
dome.
it's so stupid that like the inside of it was basically rubber that had nothing reinforcing it. There's a bunch of air in between the rubber and the plastic, and I just tried to break some ice up against the wall, not knowing that the wall was just rubber that could just fall apart.
oh.
Anyway,
Let's
that's
go
sad enough.
to the good part of this. I'll just read my notes when we finally get to the monster.
Yeah.
Verbatim, I wrote, all hail space death octopus. Why did that guy run directly into space death octopus? That did not work out well for him. This is kind of what happened in Europa report, and not the little hottie with the bob.
Oh.
So
She's
I
like
guess
one of the few white sleeved characters I see, other than Helena. Actually, has a medical sleeve.
you want to send a doctor out on your probe. I feel like you can't call it a probe if people are on it. I said that in Voyager's Return as well, though. So maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I don't know what protocol is in space medical medicine. I mean, you should have somebody to, take care of someone's wounds in case they get,
Oh no, they need a
wounded.
doctor. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't seem like this is a probe. Probes. I consider a
Manned
probe to
probe,
be
yeah.
unmanned. Yeah.
Also,
Now
this in this universe, it's like anytime a new planet is discovered, they immediately launch a manned probe to it, like they did with the Metaprobe at the beginning of the series, which
right.
also
That
met
also
a bad
confused me.
fate. Yeah, yeah. It's like this one kind of rendered the Metaprobe a little moot because it seemed like they were telling us, "Oh, our budgets are, we can't send more than one probe." Especially if they're disastrous. So we're
That
not
was
going to send another probe. But then Meta comes along and says, "Oh, well, it's another planet. Well, we got to launch a probe to it."
well, that was 3 years later.
Exactly. Well, maybe
I,
they
And that
up
one
their
was
budgets
swinging
too.
right by. It's not like Ultra where you really have to go out there and look for it. Meta was swinging right by Earth, so it made it easier.
mm-hmm. I I took notes that when they were up there, the doctors were sort of making a joke that it was like a like a car park for a conference, for an alien conference, which probably they should have been freaked out that they saw alien spaceships and nobody seemed to care. But
They were more like, we can really use those to fly out in the interstellar space. But
yeah,
which description did you like better? Spaceship graveyard or car show or whatever Tony called it?
car
Not
show.
Tony.
He said
Alan called it
something. Yeah, Tony said,
motor
but
show.
where's
That's
the
what he said, motor show.
yeah. But Tony said, "But where's the conference?" And it looked like the conversation came to a dead halt, and everybody stopped laughing because it was almost like
He's a
it,
buzzkill.
it was like he didn't get the joke or something. I don't know. But
Well,
also I don't know.
humor is one of the hardest things to translate.
My favorite thing about the flashback is that in 1996 there's space news. The guy comes on TV. It's like space news.
Oh yeah, I
And it has
love
to
that.
come from Houston, right? It can't come from anywhere else.
Yeah.
I guess that's where UFO gets a little bit of a leg up on Space 1999, just because I believe it has more weird stuff like that showing up.
That would be cool. Also, what do I have here? Oh, when the monster shows up, the one guy, Doctor, the guy who always played Hitler, said, "Wind, noise, light. It's pretty weird," which is pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Space is weird, man.
Pretty weird, and then it
Is that your
kills him.
favorite line? Wind, noise, light. Pretty weird.
Yep.
I'd stop to think of a good
Probably.
line from this one.
I have a lot of bad lines written down.
Tony has a lot of bizarre lines. I couldn't
When
settle on one.
And
when
then
Alan says, "What's that guy got against me?" after he's knocked out the second time.
Alan was so cool about that. That made me laugh.
Yeah,
I did
kind of chuckled.
Right at the start, 877 days. So we're almost up. No, actually, if it's September 13th, we're getting close to Space 2003, aren't we? By this point.
It's 2002.
Yeah. Right.
Which
means
is not going to make any
to.
sense later in the series because then they quote numbers that are earlier than that. So a lot of inconsistencies with the dating.
Those episodes happened
like star dates,
chronologically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Season
Yeah,
2
we just
happened
changed
before
everybody's
this?
uniforms and sets between episodes and then changed them back again
And now it's
or
back to
something.
it's
Mhm.
1999 again.
Oh god, it reminds me
No.
of the
And
Babylon 5 spinoff that
they've
had the same problems.
they've gone through like 5 weird warps at this point. Who knows what year it is?
I mean, technically, if you go the speed of light for 1,000,000 light years or whatever it was they did, then it could. We don't know how that works as far as relativity. They could be in like the 1200s or something. We don't know what happens when you do that.
That's
Well,
where
the
the
beginning Helena says they're between galaxies, but then later she says we're 3 months flight time from the nearest planet. It's like, wait, you're between galaxies.
you're never
I'm
getting
pretty
anywhere
sure.
ever again.
Yeah.
Intergalactic
using
space.
using any real model of how physics works, how travel works, you
Oh, yeah.
probably would be between solar systems.
That's a huge conceit about this show is you just cannot trust the science about space and everything because they have no conception at all.
No. So, do you guys think that the flying spaghetti monster is the god that's been guiding them along their path the whole time?
Yes.
You think that's why they've been going in a straight line? And they keep meeting people who know who Earth is and stuff.
Well, yeah, it's like another of those, mysterious unknown forces in the show that kind of seem to be affecting the destinies, the whole idea of the moon flying through space at all is so bizarre. So it's possible. I think when we get to those later novels that were written in the 2000s, there's an idea that the dragons, as you'd call them in this, were one of many species who were connected to the space brain that we saw a few weeks ago, and the whole mythology gets kind of convoluted and weird. But there's this attempt to try to make some sense out of the whole thing. I don't know if we still had Johnny Byrne around. Well, he was around, but if we had the same production crew in season 2 and hadn't made all those changes, maybe they would have started connecting the dots and trying to make it all make sense.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it might have been actor availability or the lack of continuity in the 70s, but I was like, why not, when they're in M's office, why not have that be Simmons?
That would be fantastic.
I think that would have been great.
That would have been too good. Really, just have this be about Alan Carter being haunted by the thing, and then he doesn't die at the end, or maybe he does, and have that be Simmons.
Well, no, since it's a 96, and that was the space commissioner guy, right, or whatever, or so, or at least I mean,
Yep.
so, yeah,
Commissioner, yeah, the
no, he already died in Earthbound, so we can't have him again.
space agency. I forget the name of the space. There's the Lunar Finance Commission, which always made me smile. It's like, oh, there's a finance
Moonbucks.
commission just for moonbucks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But,
I have
I don't
lots
know.
of
So, do you guys think this works as a? Do you buy this as a ghost story? Because that's sort of what it seems to be pitched at. Is the ghost story is wherever you go and there are abandoned spaceships there for some reason. There's also this monster, which is
And-
not alive technically.
And
It
let me
doesn't make
ask a dumb question.
Okay.
Was there any reason they ran into the space graveyard again?
That
It was
was
just
basically
there.
what I was getting at. It was
Okay.
it didn't work. I like the idea of it, that like, oh no, it's the space graveyard, but like spaceships don't just appear wherever like what? I don't know. If a monster is haunting someone, does it have to take all those dead spaceships with it? Like, it doesn't make sense. And does that mean
Well,
that they also went this
well,
100
Victor
times the
had
speed
a
of light?
Victor had a line that said it looked like spiders trapped in a web, and so it's kind of implied that something drew them to that point in space,
Oh,
which
that's where the
apparently
webs came
then
from inside.
moves around from
Yeah.
galaxy to galaxy, and then yeah, but the coincidence of Alpha appearing in that same place seems a little too bizarre. So again, you're left with the mysterious unknown force causing this to happen.
Do you believe
Oh,
in
did you guys
monsters and a young
Webb
girl's
was
heart?
one of
How the monster can kill her wherever it starts.
Webb was one of the working titles of a version of the script, and I think that would have been a better title, since there is not a dragon in this, and also, if you're wondering, www.dragon.com is parked.
They
Nobody's
should have
there.
called this episode Octopus's Garden.
No, I've been good.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh
You
no, I'm
guys,
sorry. Dragon.com redirects to Dragon speech recognition.
Hmm.
So, that's cool. Probably sucks. We go ahead and slander whatever company that is.
Another little continuity problem. I don't remember who says it, but someone, maybe it's Victor or Koenig, saying we don't know what a black sun is going to do, and I'm like, we saw that in episode 3. we very much saw what the black sun does. It puts you in a
saying,
weird
we know about
room where
black
you're
suns, and
ageism.
I was thinking, and that helped you out how much when you finally met a black sun? It didn't seem to help. Also
Well,
about Tony's fascination with hatchets, I was wondering, is it because he used a hatchet in the Ultra Probe mission? Is that where his fascination with tomahawks and things came into play? Did he start collecting them after that?
well,
Why
he
did
might have
they-
just been a hatchet expert because that's one of his many skills.
Do you think the ISS has a hatchet on there?
Yes, several. One for
Maybe.
each astronaut in case they have to all fight each other. Black Sun did air 2 episodes after this episode.
So they
also,
didn't know what a
this
black
is,
sun's going to do.
I didn't really realize this, but this is one of the highest rated episodes of the series. And
No, it is. Like that I was
Um,
coming in thinking I was the
it's-
odd man out by not loving this one. And then you kind of explained it like it's 2 of the best minutes of the series surrounded by
Mhm.
like what?
I mean, my theory is that a bunch of kids saw this episode, it messed them up, and then they got an attachment
Yeah.
to it.
It's
'Cause-
pure nightmare fuel. Kids
Yeah, 'cause-
freaked out about that. I mean, I was a kid and I kind of remembered this one pretty vividly because of that terrible
Well, I mean,
monster.
Yeah, remember when we had a discussion about Greatest American Hero, and I said like the episode where he fought a bunch of people in the other dimension was one of the only ones I specifically remember because it was scary, and then the Mork and Mindy where he shrank a whole bunch. Like
Mhm.
I couldn't sit down and tell you the plots of almost any Mork and Mindy episodes, but I could tell you the 2 or 3 that upset me. So there you go.
Meanwhile, I'm watching this in my mid 40s, so what I'm thinking of olive oil tussling around with the non-motorized octopus in the Robert Altman Pot Pie film. It was supposed to move, but it wasn't working. So there was
Well, I'm
okay, Shelley,
thinking-
just flip those things around.
That happens with every rubber monster with tentacles. I mean, going back to Ed Wood, right? In the
Yeah.
Bride of the Monster or something. Anytime you have a rubber monster, it doesn't work. And so the actors have to kind of help it along by grabbing the tentacle and wrapping it around. It's the same story in this episode. The tentacles didn't always come off as very scary.
I appreciate that they did make the tentacles work finally at the end for Tony, because I guess they decided that they couldn't just have Tony run into its mouth like everybody else did. But I mean, he still died, and it didn't even show it spitting out Tony's corpse like everybody else. And that's why Helena at the end says we don't know the fate of, they don't know anything about the monster, they don't know about Tony's fate because they just left. And also
you
then
just
Koenig
leave?
says that Tony would be very happy that he put new life into an old myth. And I said he would have been happier to not be dead.
Yeah.
I think maybe Tony just becomes the next monster. Whoa.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
They would have a scene
Italian
where he
octopus.
resurrects, starts growing tentacles out of his hands or something. That'd be awesome.
That'd be sick, like Tetsuo the Iron Man style, just like stop motion growing a bunch of stuff out of him.
Do you guys
Oh.
remember in Guardian of Piri, I said, look out for another creature that's oval shaped with a big eye in the middle of it?
All right.
I just thought the design between the Guardian and the monster were pretty similar. Just one big glowing eye.
I mean, it
Although-
kind of reminds me of the monster from the comic book Watchmen that was changed for the movie because clearly
Oh,
they
we didn't get the
pull it off.
tentacled monster in New York. Yes, I was very disappointed about that one aspect of the Watchmen.
I was, but I thought that of all the changes they made, that one was at least understandable.
Yeah,
What
I
changes?
was
That movie was really a very faithful adaptation in many regards.
Especially considering that most people consider that unfilmable, and I think I kind of agreed with them. So for them to make it at all is pretty impressive. I mean,
it
it's
was
not
impressive. just
Yeah.
that it got made at all.
I've
Yeah.
always liked that one for I guess people don't seem to like it that much, but
I mean,
I like to walk
there's
out of the
things like
theater.
the sex scene. People are mad at the sex scene, but I think that it was funny and I laughed, so I don't care. If something is pulled off in a way where I'm amused by it, then I don't really care that much. It wasn't eye rolly.
The
Anyway.
other reason they might have wanted to get out of that, getting back to this episode, they wanted to get out of the probe so quickly is I like to think about what the smells are when I'm watching my TV and movies. So I assumed it smelled like dust, gore, and squid guts in there.
Probably.
And yesterday at the 7-Eleven, Maddie and I stopped by there to get like a burrito or whatever, and I noticed they had one thing in the they had squid guts. It was labeled in English as such. I mean, that's not what the Japanese said, but it's like, Mark, would you like to eat some squid guts?
What does the package look like?
It was like a white sealed package with like gloopy shit inside.
I'll pass, thanks.
Brian, squid guts, you want to eat them?
Squid guts. No,
That's what it said.
calamari, yeah, but not guts.
It was not
no.
calamari.
It sounds like it was like a canned, like
Calamari
a
is the opposite of
package
squid guts.
yeah, like a package of tuna, but it's squid instead.
Yeah,
Right?
kind of. Like
Yeah,
we were like,
no.
well, if I was like making ground beef and I was like, hey man, you want some cow guts, or instead of chitlins, hey, you want some pig guts? I mean, just adding guts makes it sound like something you don't want to eat anymore.
There are a lot of people who eat those things though, like menudo and liver, heart, tongue. I could never stand that whole class of meat. Sorry, just you can keep it.
I haven't. Yeah, I respect people who are into it, but no, I have not really ventured into that
Japan does some good
avenue.
tongue. You can
I've had
barbecue some
tongue. I like tongue. I've had tongue. I like tongue. I've had cheek meat, which is very good, but that's still not not all that out of the ordinary. I'd rather just try different animals. Like
I had locust.
how was that? Like shrimp?
Locust? No, like the
No, but was
plague
it like
upon
shrimp?
Egypt. No, you just eat it like straight on, like you're eating a bug.
What's alive?
No, you're not. What's his name in Dracula? It's covered in a soy glaze.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'd try it. Remind me next time I'm in Japan. I'll try it. I don't care.
Okay. It's a local food here. I can get you that easily.
I've had chocolate covered like whatever insects or something. I don't remember which ones, crickets or something. Why not? Why not? Better than eyeballs or balls or
if this
whatever.
if this monster were not corporeal, would you eat it? Not knowing if it's dead or not, or if it was ever
It's
alive.
not. I don't. Can I get someone to test it somehow?
Hell no.
No, I'd say no. I'm not the guys from Prometheus. I'm not just gonna do whatever without thinking about it.
How about in Linslayer mode? Would you eat it then?
Linslayer mode?
That's a glimmer of light. I guess that's not really a Linslayer, but
What?
it's just a glimmer of light. You could eat.
Oh,
that.
just eat that thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd try it. Why not?
Yeah, you could do that. But it turns into space death octopus, so.
But it'd be like candy.
Mm.
But yeah, people are weird. I clearly this is rated 8.2 because people are scared of the thing,
This is
and that's
often
cool.
considered to be one of the best of the series. So I was a little surprised that I was a little cool on it,
I don't.
Well, it's the weird construction of the flashback and everything because you had to set it all up.
Yeah.
And
If you watch this without thinking about it, it's probably fine. But I'm thinking about it.
What is the rating on Black Sun, by the way? Or Ring Around the Moon? Because I love those, but those seem to be rated relatively lower.
Give me a second.
I thought Ring Around the Moon's great.
Black Sun 7.2.
Much lower in this one then. How about Ring Around the Moon?
The moon is. Where is it?
It's around the moon. Look around the moon.
Oh, I'm looking straight at the moon, and
do you see the eye, the brain eye?
Oh, 6.0.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's a low rating. I love that episode.
Let me see. My favorite ones would be
like the funky guitar when they're out on the surface
look
of
up-
the moon.
check out Collision Course.
Infernal Machine 6.9. The Last Sunset 7.4.
Collision Course.
Now I'm rating my
Collision
favorite
Course.
ones. Collision Course. I need to use my Control F.
Because that was your dumpster fire of an episode, right?
6.9. That's one I didn't
Okay, it
like.
wasn't that high, but yeah.
Force of Life 7. Most of these are about for real close together. Alpha Child was only 6.6. That's lame. That was fun episode. End of Eternity 7.2.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, it is curious that it seems.
Oh, Full Circle 5.2. I think we already went over that. That was the lowest rated episode of the whole fucking series.
No,
I'm sorry, bleep that out.
As we've been going through these, I've been noticing, especially reading the Mirror book, that kind of like where we land and like where a lot of, like people land on very different episodes of the series, which is kind of charming.
Yeah. But yeah, top rated Dragon's Domain, Earthbound, Breakaway, Another Time, Another Place, Last Sunset, Testament of Arcadia, which is next week.
You wouldn't put Another Time, Another Place that high if I remember correctly. Didn't that one like annoy you?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't. It was dumb, but it was like not bad or incompetent.
No, my rating would be about where you just said. So
I certainly liked Earthbound and Breakaway a lot. And
those
Last Sunset and Death's Other Dominion is right there, and that's still probably my favorite one. I think.
Brian Blessed always raises the bar.
Yeah, for sure. Just crushing it. But also, I mean, that was the only episode I think we've seen at all that had character arcs for more than like Koenig. Like basically it had characters that were believable and interesting that were not main characters, or like the one guest star who's Satan or
well, at least Cellini describes it because he says, "I'm not a rational man." So why would you think you'd get a rational character arc out of him?
But John and Helena have to yell at each other over whether he's rational or not. That's all that matters.
The Eagles come played out in this episode.
How would that played out if Alan was the lead instead of Cellini, though?
I would. Weird. The thing is that if that part of why that would have been better is we wouldn't have had all the stupid. There probably wouldn't have been a bunch of argument over his character because we know Alan, so we don't have to have any of that stuff. So that's the stuff that really kind of felt like it was grinding the episode to a halt.
I mean, we've talked a little bit about how with the guest stars, there's been some Poochie syndrome. I'd say this is the most pronounced episode of Poochie syndrome.
Yeah, really, you didn't have to kill him anyway. You could have just been like, "Oh, I'm okay. Thank you. Take me back to the space
death octopus."
Yeah,
he has to figure out how the climax of the episode would have worked, because then Landau didn't want him to kill the monster, but maybe together they could have killed the monster or something like that. Or trying to figure out how they would have made it work.
Without Landau's input, it would have just been Alan figures out maybe I should stab the thing with the giant eye in the eye.
You could even just have him almost die, and Conan comes and rescues him, and he's like, "Thanks, John. You saved me. You're the best commander ever. You're the star. I don't have my own show. Why don't you knock me out again?" I mean, it's just, it makes me just dislike Martin Landau, which I don't need. I don't need that. You know what I mean? Like this episode made me dislike him more than the ATV made me.
Well, we've been learning all season what prima donnas Landau and Bane were.
Yeah, it's these little breadcrumbs, and you know what it is when you hear little things about little complaints here and there, then it's actually scarier because everyone's afraid to say what they actually think. It's like when you hear full on, when someone's just like, "I can't stand them, I won't work with them again," then it's like, at least, I don't know, at least you feel like maybe they were paying attention. But who knows? Maybe Shatner is worse. I don't know. Ask George Takei.
Let's do the breakdown on this one. Existential dread versus sci-fi fun. I think I'll put Brian in the driver's seat on this one today.
Well, again, it's the scary episode or scariest episode. So it did have an impact in that regard. So there's a lot of dread around the monster, a lot of boredom around the flashback. But there's some sci-fi fun. I mean, I like the fact that they made good use of the Eagle's modularity in this episode. It's probably showcased in that, first of all, you can abandon all your passengers and take the ship off without them, like Tony did. And then later you can pop the command module off and dock it with something else. So that was the sci-fi fun of it for me, was seeing that sort of stuff going on. But I think the dread wins out because, yeah, the monster spooked, kids of my age out a lot. So
That's kind of what.
And I remember watching this just before I went to bed. It's like it was on at 8 o'clock in the evening. Okay, I go to bed now. It's like, okay, I'll try to sleep.
That's
so maybe I would give it. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's kind of why I'm putting you in the ask you to go first, because you would have seen this, as a kid.
As of that age, yeah. So I would definitely give it probably at least 70 dread and probably 30 sci-fi fun. I was trying to think of anything else about that I wanted to say. I think they should have taken a tentacle back to Alpha just for studying it, but it probably would have just evaporated or something. Yeah, they could have done that. I don't know how long they were going to be hanging around there before they
Kona could have touched it a lot.
Yeah, but it seems like they could have studied it. Victor would be fascinated with the thing, and then, but since it had a tendency to appear out of nowhere, I get the impression that it probably would have just. I mean, we see the tentacles just kind of steaming on the ground. I thought they were just going to disappear. The way the monster has a tendency to just disappear. Yeah.
I'm going 90-10, and the main reason for that is that dread.
Okay.
Because I didn't have a lot of fun. All my fun was with the terrifying monster. So I can't really say that was all that fun because it was scary. I think the thing is that most of it wasn't fun. It's like I felt dread most of it. I felt dread less than I felt kind of bored, but I felt dread way more than I felt fun. So that's all I can really go on. It's terrifying, the idea that this monster would just follow you that far. That is scary. Anyway, it makes no sense at all, but it's scary.
See, I feel like if I had seen this as a child, I'd say something like 70, 90 dread and the rest fun. I'll choose 80 as an in-between. And the 80's fun. The 20 is the dread.
Okay.
Okay. Somehow this one, like I didn't see it as a kid, so I'm just like, that's a derpy fun monster there, I mean, in Cellini, there's no emotional resonance. If it had been Alan Carter, the dread would have been much higher for me, again, because that's a character I know and don't need to be told about.
Yeah, you don't have any stakes in the guest star. You rarely have stakes in the guest star.
Yeah, it's like this guy's dead by terrible. It's not the guy. I reiterate, I thought he was a very good actor, but they did a terrible job of fleshing out that character. And also he seemed not super invested in it either, but probably because he knew how little he had to work with. I was tempted to say something like 60% dread and 0% fun, but I don't know. I prefer to
come on. You got 100%. All those models. You got a modular eagle. You got space death octopus.
Yeah,
there's plenty of sci-fi fun.
The octopus is really fun. I can't. The screaming, just the screaming, is hilarious to me, and partly because I can just hear my childhood self scared of it in the back of my head, and I'm laughing at myself.
Right. So that's because I've said sometimes it's the abstract episodes I find to be very high on the dread meter, whereas this one is more like plot holes, just straight plot holes. I
mean, it's just a botched rewrite. It can't be anything else. It's just a totally botched rewrite that just went through because nobody cared all that much, or ITC was like, this is brilliant. I'm a super smart executive, and this is the best thing I've ever seen. Possibly.
Well,
Okay.
my stuff about sci-fi fun is just the spaceship aspect of it. We get to see lots of spaceships. Of course, most of them we've seen before, like the Discovery like ship is in the graveyard, all those graveyard ships. The Ultra Probe ship is considered by fans to be one of the coolest models that they built for the series, but we only get to see it this one time. I like the interiors, but it doesn't take more than 3 seconds to realize they just redressed the Voyager 1 set from Voyager's Return to make the modular
Yeah.
well, I think the cockpit area was all very familiar. So
And
yeah.
it's one of those things where this is another actually good case for airing the show out of production order, because we just had what 3 episodes in a row that looked incredible, and this looks great
Yeah.
but not incredible. So it's
I
just
wanted to weigh in on those episodes too, because I really like,
man,
I like Gwent to the ship. That was bizarre and weird. I love
good.
that.
So good, so
Mission
good.
of the Darians, again, another big model.
Mhm.
It had a lot of cool model work in the end. When they got some more money, they started showing us stuff.
Here
So
you just get an
Yeah,
insane monster, which is great. I like an
it
insane
looks great.
monster. I wouldn't tell you to like machete order this one out or anything, you know? Uh,
No, I mean it's worth watching. It's just one of those things that don't expect Star Trek.
oh, I guess here's
We
what I
could call the
did like.
podcast that.
Here's what I did like about the flashback. Again, this is in my running theme that um, Victor Bergman is really Austin Powers. It felt like Austin
Mhm.
Powers flashbacks, where it's like 5 years earlier and they're wearing something
Mhm.
slightly different, but everything's exactly the same, basically.
I took what where are my notes on this? There was a conversation between Victor and Koenig that was frustrating, and oh yeah, they're talking about Koenig's screaming about going to get the spaceships, and Victor says that Cellini virtually came back from the dead, and I was like, that is completely wrong. He did not come back from the dead. Everyone else died, and he didn't. You
virtually,
know,
no, it's virtual.
virtually.
You
Okay,
get away
virtually.
a lot. That's a great weasel word. Virtually. Oh,
Yeah. It's like if you survive war, you virtually came back from the dead. Well, uh, it's anyway. The monster exists, and it is
Not
not
anymore.
alive. That's probably still there.
Anyway, Cellini was not chill, that's for sure.
He's dead.
Cellini. I like that.
Oh yeah, the reason I said Bellini earlier, this is like a way back in the conversation, is they recorded this as one of those like audio books, and they changed his name to Bellini for no reason. So that he
Oh,
was
okay.
Bellini.
Okay. I guess
Not to
we
be
crack.
confused with Fellini.
I guess we're
Is
gonna
Fellini
run
better than
into the.
Cellini and Cellini's better than Bellini?
Now you're just confusing me.
Is there a Delaney?
What?
Okay, Dana Delaney. I'm sorry, I'm just saying names now. You go ahead. You're doing something more productive than me.
I forgot what I was doing. I think I was trying to goad you on to finish the show.
Oh, the show is finished. And if you want to finish something else, then go to our Patreon at patreon.com/podcastio and finish signing up to give us some money every month for server bills and finish finding our other podcasts like Films and Filth and Citizen Kane podcasts. Brian's on that one sometimes. Time Enough, Twilight Zone podcast. Brian's also on that sometimes. And Game Show, the game show about games. Luke Loves Pokemon, Hyrule Field Report, Occult Disney.
Brian's
Anyway,
not on
don't.
those.
Yeah, I was. Rather than saying that, I was just gonna not.
Well, I'm
I
not
mean,
on
I'm
them.
not on some of those. You're not on some of those.
And you can go back and listen to Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary on the Podcastio Network. It's still out there.
Yeah,
True
That's
indeed.
one I
It's on
wasn't
the
on.
it's on the feed. Well, I was on that one like 3 times.
I
But
still want to be
not
on
trying to
it.
brag.
Can we do
We
one
could
more?
just bring it back. Just bring it back.
I'll find some sci-fi thing that you and Luke will want to do, and then we'll just do it.
What was
It'll
that
just
one
show
you
up in
were
the feed
talking
one day.
about? Yeah, what was that one you were talking about a few weeks ago? Seconds, was it? I
yeah,
wanna
yeah,
see
we
that.
did that. We did that.
Oh,
We
you did
an
that?
episode
Never
about it.
mind.
Yeah.
Too late.
Okay.
There was
Well,
so much stuff about 2001 going around back then. I thought maybe you should just do 2010.
yeah,
Good.
that's a good movie.
I
I
still
mean,
have
it's
your copy of it, Matt.
oh, I
You
own
left
it.
it with me. Yeah, you let me borrow it, and then you moved to Japan.
Oh, okay.
Oops. And
I
then
watched
you
it.
moved.
I watched it like 2 years ago, so obviously it's not a big
Uh,
problem.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
is
have a copy
anything?
of 2010, but I need to get one.
It's a good movie.
I got a request for
Is
Sci-Fi
it on-
Sanctuary. You guys should bring it back to do Zardoz. Have Brian on for that.
Mm.
They never did Zardoz. Can you believe that?
It was definitely like on the short list.
I'm offended that you never
Oh
did Zardoz.
gosh. There was a whole bunch on Sci-Fi 5 about Zardoz a couple of years ago, which reminds me of that. Yeah. We were going to watch it at STLV, but we never got around to it.
I should just have a watch party. Luke's probably never seen it, right?
I don't think so. But I
You
don't
should
know. It's
bring
got Connery
bring
running
on
around in
Earl.
panties.
Yeah.
So good, dude. Let's have a watch
Bring on
party.
Earl
Watch
and John
Zardoz.
for a Zardoz. Have a huge watch
Yes.
party.
That'd be awesome. Let's just do a big Zardoz round table.
For now, let's go running into the mouth of the space death octopus.
Spaghetti.
I'm just going to hit the eject button.
Is that the right kind of screaming?
No, it was like
It was a
Okay.
pretty high-pitched roar.
Yeah, I
and
didn't want to do what you were
super.
doing.
I didn't
I'm
want to
fine
do
I
that
did.
on the podcast. That's why I waited till it was over.
Maybe
I mean,
I'll
it's fun to
leave that
scream
in.
like that, but it's okay, sure.